You know, I take every opportunity I can to tell people about God. But sometimes I find people that say, well, you know what, I can't trust the Bible. Well, today on Daily Renewal, I want to give you 5 reasons that you can trust the Scriptures. Hello everybody, this is Pastor Lyle and welcome to Daily Renewal. Our session today is titled, Can I Trust the Bible? Now, you may trust the Bible, and today's session, hopefully you'll even have more confidence that you can trust the Bible. But there's a couple other reasons why I felt the need to do this video. Number one, as a pastor, I want to give you information. I know myself, you know, as far as this topic, you can find really long videos on this stuff and get a lot of information, and that's good. But I want to do a shorter version because I believe that when people talk to other people who maybe who aren't Christians, a lot of the excuses they give for why they don't believe in God is they say that they can't trust the Bible. Well, if you as a Christian try to use the Bible as your base in talking to somebody about Jesus, and they off the bat, they just say, well, I don't trust the Bible, well, for some, the conversation's over. So I want to use this video, or I'm hoping that you can use this video later on as something that maybe in talking with other people about your walk with God, you can help them to see that the Bible is trustworthy. So I'm going to go through 5 reasons that you can trust the Bible. Now, one of the first things that people say the reason they don't trust the Bible is that they say, well, scientifically, the Bible's not accurate. Well, that's not true, actually. There's a lot of things that are mentioned in the Bible that were mentioned even thousands of years before man even understood them. I'll give you some examples. And of course, when you're talking with somebody, you may not have your Bible with you, but I'll give you some references. One of them is in Job 26:7, where God says, He hangs the earth upon nothing. What this is talking about, this was actually, I think, 1,500 years before man even understood that the earth was a free-floating planet. Years ago, when this was written, many people felt like the earth was either held up by a giant or by animals, believe it or not. So this was scientifically, the Bible, years ahead of its time, showed that the earth was actually in space. Another one you find in Leviticus 17:11, it says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. If you go see a doctor today, they can tell you different diseases that you might have. They can tell you different problems just through your blood. Well, it wasn't until it was about 150 years ago where the medical profession actually thought bloodletting was a good thing. They were taking out blood was a good thing. Well, now, many of our problems are solved because there is life of the flesh in the blood. We actually add blood in order to help people. So scientifically, the Bible showed that it was showing us years ahead of its time that our blood plays a major role in life. But another one that I think is very popular is the idea of Noah's Ark. The dimensions of Noah's Ark, Genesis 6 talks about the dimensions of Noah's Ark. Well, I've actually seen programs on this, but in 1993, the South Korean World-Class Ship Research Center, CRISO, I think is how it's pronounced, they actually did some tests and found out that the dimensions of Noah's Ark actually outperformed all modern vessels. You've seen programs where they've done studies in universities and they built scale models of all types of ships and put them in circumstances, all types of circumstances that would be on the ocean. And the dimensions of Noah's Ark always outperformed everything. Well, this was light years. Think about when this was even written. And yet God somehow knew what needed to happen years before man could figure it out. So the whole idea of the science and the Bible, again, there's many more proofs, but that's just a few. If somebody tells you that science disproves the Bible, that's not the case. The second thing that I want to talk about as far as can we trust the Bible is historically. The interesting thing about the history of the Bible is that there's many places, for example, that over the years people said didn't exist. Bethlehem, the ancient Nazareth. A lot of people said that those places actually didn't exist. You can look up even Jericho, some of the archaeological digs with Jericho. Some places that they said didn't exist, and yet as we find archaeologically, they have uncovered a lot of the places that in not too far in the past, they've said, we don't even know if these places exist. Well, the interesting thing about history is the fact that there is no evidence that I could find that the Bible isn't historically accurate. They found places, but even people. People that they didn't know for sure existed, such as Pontius Pilate, Tiberius Caesar, Herod Antipas. They found the tomb of Philip and the burial box of James. They believe they found as well. Some of these people, the further we come in our trail of history, we find that the Bible they uncover things that prove that the Bible stories did exist. And probably the biggest one is the fact they've never been able to find the body of Jesus, which I can tell you that in first century, or like in the New Testament times, I guarantee that they would have done an exclusive search or a real designated search to try and find the body of Jesus, because if they ever did find the body of Jesus, the Christian faith would be thrown out the window. So historically, again, history shows that the Bible can be fairly trustworthy. But we're going to move on because you might not be convinced yet. Well, now it starts to get interesting. The third point that I want to bring up today is what I'll call the unity of the Bible. Now, I want you to think about this. It takes more faith not to believe the Bible after I do this point, I think, and the next one. The unity of the Bible. Now, picture this. It's one book made up of 66 books, okay? So the Bible is, even though it's put together as one book for us, it's actually 66 different books put together. It's written by at least 40 different authors. And those authors wrote it in over a period of 1,600 years in 13 different countries on 3 different continents in at least 3 different languages by people of multiple professions. So there's absolutely no way that all of those writers got together and said, you know what? Let's put together a religion. We'll all have to agree on everything. That would have been absolutely impossible. Geographically, in the years that it was done, it's absolutely virtually impossible for that to happen. Yet, now get this, none of the books contradict one another. Not one. They don't contradict one another theologically, morally, ethically, doctrinally, scientifically, or historically. In fact, they don't contradict each other in any way. If that right there isn't a major contributor to you believing that the Bible is true. I mean, I look at people that that write stories. Often, even one person contradicts himself within a story, and yet alone, here we are. We've got 66 books written by all of these over 40 different authors and different times, and yet nothing contradicts. All the thinking is the same. I'd say that it's pretty far-fetched to not think that God had to have played a role in this, just with the way human nature works. But if that wasn't enough, let's go to the fourth point, which is accurate prophecy. Now, this is a big one. I love this one. Now, in 1952, there was a guy named Peter Stoner, and Peter Stoner, let me give you some of his credentials. He was the chairman of the Department of Mathematics and Astronomy at the Pasadena City College until 1953. From then on, he was the chairman of the Science Division at Westmount College from 1953 to 1957. All right? So this guy, he's a lot more intelligent than me, and he's definitely better at math. And that's important when we look at what he's about to say here. In his book, written in 1952, Science Speaks, he took the idea of prophecy, and he looked at the prophecies of Jesus. Now, when we look at the prophecies of Jesus, or that Jesus would have had to have fulfilled to be the Messiah, he said that the idea of one person fulfilling 8 of these biblical prophecies would be 1 in the power of 17. In other words, 1 in 1 with 17 zeros behind it. That's just 8 prophecies. The possibility of somebody fulfilling 48 of those prophecies would be 1 in 10 to the power of 157. In other words, 1 to the power of 10 with I think it's 157 zeros behind it. That's ridiculous. Now, here's the amazing part about it. Jesus didn't just fulfill 8 prophecies. He didn't just fulfill 48 prophecies. He fulfilled over 300 prophecies. And I mean, these prophecies were prophecies like how he was going to die. Crucifixion wasn't even a thing when it was predicted how he was going to die, and yet he died that exact way. Right up to the type of death he was going to die, the time period. I mean, it's down to the greatest detail. Over 300 prophecies, and he fulfilled every one of them. Absolutely amazing. And these prophecies, you have to keep in mind, some of them were written 450 years, hundreds of years before he was even born. So, accurate prophecy. And the last one, if you're not convinced yet, I will call it this, point 5. The Bible is a book that many have tried to destroy. There's been many ancient writings. You look at the writings of Homer, the poet, and man has meticulously tried to keep his writings in order. And from what I understand, there isn't actually a complete set of his works, even after man has tried to keep it. And yet the Bible, there's more evidences uncovered of the Bible, older than any other text you can find on the planet. And yet here's the difference as well. Yeah, there's been attempts to meticulously keep it, but there's also been huge attempts to destroy it. And one of the funniest stories is a guy named Voltaire. Voltaire was a French philosopher and a huge Christian critic. And he actually predicted that within 100 years of his death, that the Bible would not only not exist, but I mean, it would be completely gone. Well, the funny part about it is within 50 years of his death, the Geneva Bible Study actually got his house, and they used his printing press to print thousands of Bibles. Isn't that just the way God does things? The Bible is an absolutely amazing book. It's more than just ink on pages. Supernaturally, I've seen the words in this book personally and in other people's lives. The Holy Spirit used this book to bring life to many. This is God's words manifest in the pages. I suggest that if you need answer to life's questions, you pray and ask God to reveal himself in his word. And if you truly want to know him, he will show you. But the question is, do you believe it's true? These things that I presented you today should open up dialogue with people to at least consider looking into it, because some of these things are not humanly possible. So I hope that helps you in being able to talk to people about whether you can trust the Bible or not. For yourself, I hope it brings confidence to you that you can. So having said that, I pray you got something out of this today. I just want to remind you that if you're in the Kamloops area, feel free to drop by River City Church. We'd love to have you. If you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, liking us on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Twitter, We're on all these platforms, and we just enjoy engaging with you on those platforms. And feel free to share this video with people. In fact, share some of these things. Go over them a few times in yourself, just so you can get familiar with some of them, so you can have a conversation with somebody about them. So having said that, God bless you. Have a great day.